last time I kind of left off, it was a cliffhanger. I had I had been working in printing after I got out of my grad school coursework in philosophy of science and epistemology. I had gotten a job selling printing, and before that, I was working in straight commission advertising sales. So I had a business card, and I had done some promotional work at UW Madison for different organizations. And so, but in spite of that, I hadn't actually taken a marketing course or I took one business course. I did take a lot of communications, um, but mostly I was intending on going into some kind of nonprofit, some kind of Christian work. So I really didn't know much about business. I didn't worry much about business. But now I'd been out of school for about 2 years, almost, well, not quite, and maybe it was a little more than that by now. Yeah, I guess it was. And so I had met with my friend Pastor Stuart Briscoe, and he had recommended me for a Christian organization, but he said what we really need is Christians in business. And so I prayed hard about it and dedicated myself to the company that I was working for. I mean, in my own heart, sort of. And and I'd been equity had been talked about, although never signed off on. And I thought it was going to be any minute, and I'd work some days 24 hours around the clock to get software developed and fix bugs. And so we were working on a business package. And it turned out that other employees there didn't like that. They didn't like that I was working so hard and that I was throwing myself at this with my whole heart. They didn't like that. And they felt that I thought I was better than they were, because they punched out at 5 and didn't work very hard. And that has been a problem for me in many jobs. But anyway, so I was called in and I was let go. And they said it's not that they didn't like me, but they thought that they had to get rid of somebody because all kinds of manufacturing was moving out of Wisconsin, and their business was slow at the moment. This was the end of the 70s, and in fact, it was, I think, 81. And if you've ever seen the movie Miracle, you'll get a picture of sort of the climate at the time, the economic climate. And so I went back to Stuart and said, I got let go. And he said, well, it's an opportunity to be reflective and think about where you want to go. And because I had, as I shared in a previous video, because I had given humorously, God loves a cheerful giver, I'd given cheerfully at a particular point before this job. I thought, well, God, I'm going to ask you for a special job, a miracle job, a job that I wouldn't apply for and probably wouldn't think I was qualified for. And I spent the summer working on my master's thesis and made some good progress on that. And later on in the lake, because I lived at my parents' house on a beautiful lake, and had a pretty nice summer actually. And through the course of the summer, I spent some time with some older business acquaintances, because I had worked some with Christian Businessmen's Committee, which is a Christian organization. And one of them got the idea that I knew about computers and I knew about data and stuff. And so he introduced me to Vic Hunter. And Vic had been president of National Is it National Business Furniture? No, that was a spin-off. B&I Furniture. And um, he developed some software there, but he was looking to go out on his own, and so he met me, and we decided I would be his first employee or full-time employee. He had a couple of other part-time people working for him at the time, but I would be his first full-time employee, and instantly I was a marketing consultant. And I mean, 2 years later, 3 years later, something like that. By then I was married. My wife and I were going to the Bahamas off season on a discount vacation. And as I was going through immigration customs, they asked me what I did, and I started to laugh. And then they pulled me aside into a little room and gave me a once over. And I said, when they said I could go, I said, just by the way, why did you pull me aside like that? And they said, well, mostly, I mean, you're a little pudgier on the waist. You could have been carrying something around there, but they said, no, it's you. But they said, also, people don't laugh when we ask them what they do. They don't laugh. That's a really different thing. And so anyway, I began my career, which continues to this day, as a marketing consultant. And I do believe it was a divine appointment for me. And about 5 years later, by then Vic's company, because of another division and some other stuff, had about 100 employees in it. So it had grown dramatically. And I hope I contributed to that. I think I did. But he kept trying to hire more consultants. And then I would try to explain to him, what we did and how we did it and all that. And before he'd hire him, he'd have him psychologically profiled and tested. And, they'd last a couple of months and then be gone. And I said, well, I've been here 5 years. Can I get some testing? Let's find out if I should be doing this or not. And so I had about 8 hours of testing. He said, that's a pretty good idea. Let's put you through that. And a month or two after the testing, I went back down to see Bob Scheid, the industrial psychologist, and he said, well, there's two really odd things about your results. He said, you came out, smart. We kind of figured that you were smart. But he said, we give a test, and sort of an aptitude test, like you took in high school maybe, but ours correlates with people who are actually successful in a field. And so most people have a wide variety of things they could do. And so on a scale of 1 to 50, most people don't get any higher than about 35, where they have a rough correlation with a couple of industries or things that they sort of fit with. But he said, you have a 43 and a 44. we never see that. We've maybe never seen it. I don't remember exactly the wording, but he said, then there's something even more unusual, and that is that in spite of the fact that people, could be a lawyer or a butcher, baker, candlestick maker or something, they had a wide variety. Almost nobody is in what this test suggests they have a good fit for. Almost nobody is. And he said, your number one was marketing executive and number two was advertising executive. He said, we just never seen anybody like you. And I looked him in the eye and I said, isn't it great to be in the will of God? And I like to think that when I went into different organizations, when they hired me and had me come in and look around their building and tell me what their problems were. That reliance on on the inspiration of God may have given me insight because I've documented some 30 some uh, turnarounds that I've helped. It's never all one person, but I think I've contributed to. And some were very, very dramatic, taking a company from 25 million to 50 million annualized revenue in a matter of 2, 3, 4 months, something like that. Really from deep center field, or 50 million to 100 million in 3 years, even. That's pretty good. Um, but a lot of them were just, inspirational. I'd get an inspiration, and and sometimes change whole industries. And I think that's part of this legacy. Um, I'll put in a commercial. So if you're looking for insights, you can call up ChatGPT. It's free. But I've always believed that God knows the future. God knows the markets. God knows the customers. God knows what's really working and what isn't. And Alexander Graham Bell, they asked him once what he does when he runs into a dead end, when he's trying to invent something or fix something. He said, I pray for more light, and I've never been disappointed. On that note, I'm John Miglosh. Have a great day. Like and share. Your friends may wonder what kind of videos you're watching. Bye-bye.